I think that's a gross generalization, and I don't think that Indian media ethics are shattered on Indian news channels on a regular basis. India is one of the largest media markets in the world, and India has one of the largest newspaper industry in the world. We're talking about 1,600 satellite channels in India, and amongst that we have close to 400 to 500 news channels. So when the market that we're talking about is so large, we really cannot expect to have a perfect market. So as far as Indian media is concerned, the Indian news media industry is self-regulated. There are also a lot of bodies like the Press Council of India, which regulates the press. As far as the electronic media is concerned, we have the National Broadcasters Association, and we have many other bodies that regulate the electronic media. And like in the case of every Indian citizen, even the media persons who are working in India, they also fall under the IPC, that is the Indian Penal Code. And there have been several instances when the Supreme Court has also stepped in to regulate the media. So I really believe that Indian media is very diverse, and India enjoys a lot of press freedom when compared to many other countries in the world where the media is continuously throttled by authoritarian regimes. Now, as far as India is concerned, let's not only talk about India, even in the case of Pakistan or Afghanistan or the US or the UK, we all know that most media groups in these countries are controlled by corporate lobbies and political lobbies. So there is a large problem here. So what the world today really needs is independent media to thrive. And independent media will thrive in the world only when people start paying for news, when people start paying for value-based original content, and when news media organizations stop looking at advertisements or ad revenues from corporate lobbies or from government, and they start giving value-based original content to people, and they start looking for paying subscribers. So I also believe that in the world we need to develop we need to develop a culture where we start paying for news, we start paying for original content, and we stop giving TRPs to those channels which are only creating hype with zero content. I again think that that's a gross generalization. I agree that there are some media anchors who are highly opinionated in India. Even in Pakistan or in the US, I have seen some anchors who are highly opinionated. Not all anchors, some anchors who are highly opinionated to the point that they don't even encourage the other person's point of view. But we should not generalize. And let's not forget that both in India and Pakistan, there are a lot of good journalists, good reporters who go out there and who do a lot of good journalism. Personally, if you ask me, anchoring or giving opinions on national TV as journalists is not journalism. I believe that a journalist's job is to go out there into the field and dig deeper and bring out stories to the public domain which is otherwise not available into the public domain, and also add value to a dialogue or discourse. That is journalism, and that kind of journalism is getting diluted across the globe, and only showmen and showwomen are being recognized as journalists, and content creators, original content creators is depleting across the world, and the number of news aggregators are filling up the market. I really feel that this is the problem that the news media industry is really facing in the world today. I don't think two leaders should be compared this way, because both these leaders have their distinct trait and they have their distinct intent. And by making such false comparisons, what we are really doing is we are shifting base from the real issue that we should be talking upon, which is global unemployment, the rise in global unemployment, inflation, COVID-19, the way as a world we have reacted to the pandemic, climate change. So there are so many issues to talk upon. As far as India is concerned, the topic that is most hotly debated right now is the issue of the migrant crisis. That is a problem the migrant laborers are going through. So when there are so many issues to dwell upon, why are we making such false comparisons and wasting our time? It's like as journalists doing a page 3 story when we should actually be doing an investigative beat story. I don't know which exact incident you're talking about, But I really believe that if there is a violation of the law of the land, then be it a Pakistani journalist or an Indian journalist, they should face the law of the land. And if you tell me the exact names or the dates of arrest, then I will be able to respond to you. But I don't think as a responsible journalist, I should be responding to a generic question. So let's not forget that there are always certain elements in certain sectors, even in journalism, who act as conduits for terrorists. But Kashmir is also a conflict zone. So on an everyday basis, we see so many stories evolving out of Kashmir, and each has a different narrative. But having said that, let me tell you that in Pakistan, there have been several instances where Pakistani journalists have been shot dead. In India also, there have been instances where Indian journalists have been killed. On both sides, we have seen instances where whistleblowers have been shot dead. So I really feel that any form of violence against the innocent should be condemned. But if anyone is indulging in terrorism or anti-national activities, be it a regular citizen or a journalist, I really feel that they should face the law of the land. The Nirbhaya case is a very important case for me personally because I had extensively reported on the Nirbhaya issue. Even when she was taken in an air ambulance to Singapore, I had gone to Singapore to report on the case. During that time, I still remember there were a lot of speculations and a lot of rumors that she had already passed away and that the Indian government did not want to disclose this information, fearing that back at home there would be a lot of mayhem. So as journalists, we were so confused, we didn't know what to do. I still remember standing out of the hospital, outside the hospital, hours together reporting on this case, and finally we broke the news of her death. So the Nirbhaya case is very important for India, and let's not forget that just a couple of weeks ago, the 4 convicts in the Nirbhaya case, they were hanged to death. So I still feel that though justice was delayed, it was not denied, but I still believe that it was not complete justice, because the most hardened criminal in this entire case is a juvenile rapist, and he is still walking free in the country. Just because he was a juvenile at the time of the incident, he was given a small punishment and he was let off. So I still feel that justice is not complete. But what I want to say is, why only talk about Nirbhaya case? Even in Pakistan, I have seen several cases of crimes against women, not only in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, in Asian countries. And why even talk about Asian countries? Even if you look at the West, or if you look at global statistics, the crime against women has only been increasing. So what we really need is stringent laws to protect women. As far as the Nirbhaya case is concerned, I still feel that Nirbhaya case is a watershed case, because following that case, the Indian government took a lot of steps, and the Indian government framed a lot of laws to protect women. So that also needs to be highlighted when we speak about the Nirbhaya case. I don't think you can really take 1 or 2 issues like the Citizenship Amendment Act or the Babri verdict and question India's secular status, because the opinion is clearly divided in the country over both these issues. There are a lot of people who are completely pro the Citizenship Amendment Act, and there are a lot of people who are against it. Even as far as the Babri verdict is concerned, the opinion is divided. If you ask me personally, I have my own views on both these issues. But what needs to be seen is that India is such a vibrant democracy that in the last couple of months, we saw so many protests against the Citizenship Amendment Act as well as the Babri verdict, which clearly shows that in India, we have the right to protest. If we don't like something, we have the right to express our views. We have freedom of expression. So that is a sign of a democracy. As far as the Citizenship Amendment Act is concerned, it was passed as a majority decision in the parliament. And as far as the Babri verdict was concerned, it was the court's decision. So I really don't want to go into the intricacies of both these cases, but I just want to tell you that you really can't take 1 or 2 instances and question the secular status of India. If you ask me whether the lockdown was relevant, definitely it was relevant. We all saw what happened in places like Italy and in the US. People have been dying in thousands every day, every single day. And that has not happened in India. Why? Because Indian government immediately implemented the lockdown measures. So in that sense, if you look at it, the lockdown was definitely relevant. And India has a 1.3 billion population. So you can only imagine if Indian government would not have implemented lockdown at the right time, the entire Indian subcontinent would have been tremendously, the crisis would have deepened, and it would have really been bad for India. Now, whether it was effective, definitely it was effective, because if you look at the numbers of people who survived COVID, who are suffering from COVID, and the number of people who died out of COVID in India, the statistics clearly shows that because we had implemented the lockdown, the numbers are really not that huge when we compare it to other countries. As far as answering your question on whether Indian citizens were responsible, yes, there have been a few stray incidents here or there where people have got out of their homes during the lockdown. But if you look at a majority, if you look at it from a majority standpoint, Indians have been very compliant. And what also needs to be kept in mind is during the entire COVID crisis, India has really stood out, because we saw what happened with the case of China. China had given a lot of PPE equipments to a lot of nations. Some of these nations returned it to China, saying that it was of substandard quality. But when it comes to India, India has been giving a lot of financial and medical aid to a lot of nations, even while it is tackling its own internal COVID crisis. I would really say that during this entire COVID crisis, India has really stood out in the way it has dealt with the situation. Definitely, the post-COVID-19 situation is going to be very horrible, not only for India, for Pakistan, and for all the countries across the globe. In US, we have been reading reports about how COVID-19 crisis has taken the economy back to the times of Great Depression. The global economy is undergoing recession, and this is only going to increase. Post-COVID, we are also going to see a situation where inflation is going to be there. We're going to see a rise in global unemployment. So there are a lot of problems that we are going to see. And why only talk about the social or economic side of it? Even when it comes to the psychological aspect, we're going to see a rise in global depression because of the kind of effect COVID-19 crisis has had on the mental health of people across the world. We are talking about a 1.3 billion population in India, and I exactly know why you're asking me this question, because on both sides, in India and in Pakistan, there are hate mongers. There are hate mongers who want India and Pakistan to keep fighting. For them, it is a business, it is a strategy, and their profit lies in the fight. But let me tell you that it is not the majoritarian view. The views of the hate mongers is not the majoritarian views. And as far as India is concerned, let me tell you that India is a peace-loving nation, and the majority of Indians have, they nurture good feelings for the people of Pakistan. Personally, if you ask me, I have my own views on Kashmir. I have problems with militancy, with any form of terrorism or violence. But when it comes to Pakistan, I have good feelings for the people of Pakistan. Now, I also remember the words of Rishi Kapoor, a Bollywood star who had recently passed away. In one of his interviews, he basically says that he was fortunate to have been born at a time when the East and West Berlin Wall had fallen. He says he's fortunate to have been born at a time when South Africa abolished apartheid, when Trump met North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. So he says that the entire world is now resorting to solving problems. But ever since independence, India and Pakistan has kept fighting. And he says that there must be peace talks across the table. And in Rishi Kapoor's own words in the interview, I still remember, he says there must be peace talks between India and Pakistan, be it on the table, under the table, across the table, but there must be some form of peace talks. And this pretty much sums up what feelings Indians have for the people of Pakistan. This is the majoritarian view. Now, as far as this question is concerned, I would also like to tell you that let's not shape our views on what a few hate mongers have to say, because these hate mongers, they fall under the privileged class. They have access to media, or they are the media, or they are part of a religious or a political group, both in Pakistan and in India. So yes, militancy is bad, terrorism is bad, any form of violence is bad, but you cannot generalize the whole thing and spread hatred against an entire nation. India cannot do it against Pakistan, and Pakistan cannot do it against India. And whoever does it, it only shows how shallow he or she is. Let's not spread hatred like a baton. The emergence of social media is going to be good not only for India but to the whole world, because social media is bringing in a lot of accountability, and it's going to make a lot of lazy journalists across the globe work harder, because social media is connecting people in a very beautiful manner. Though there are events like fake news or trolling that keeps happening on the social media, but that's only a part of it. I feel that through social media, the era of cut, copy, paste journalism is over, because people are more aware and people have access to information directly from information givers because of social media. Before the advent of the internet, if an information giver had to pass an information to an information seeker, then he or she needed the help of the media. So they needed intermediaries or brokers. So the newspapers or the television channels acted as intermediaries to pass information from the information giver to the information seeker. But what has happened is, with the advent of the social media, if a corporate house has to release a press release, they don't need the media anymore. They directly go to Twitter and they just post their press release. Or if a private individual needs to talk to the public, they don't need the media anymore. They can do it on social media. The entire Me Too campaign has taken place on the social media, which means that victims no longer depend on journalists. They can directly go to social media and they can talk about their problems. So what does this mean to the media? It means that media will innovate. It means that journalism will become more challenging. So social media is definitely going to make journalism more challenging, because social media is connecting people so closely that if journalists have to be important and relevant in the society, if technologists should not replace journalists, then journalism should also change, and reporters will have to now resort to reporting the unknown. They should stop doing group journalism, spokesperson journalism, press conference journalism, and they should start reporting the unknown. They should do stories on poverty, on accountability, on abuses of power, stories on women empowerment, on child labor. They should do these stories, and this makes journalism more challenging. I would just say that social media has eliminated the intermediaries, and because of this, journalism is now going to be more challenging, and journalism in the future is going to be more valuable to the society because of the social media.
Assalamu alaikum. I am Sabina. Please don't forget to subscribe to Mere Loog.